afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you today. The team are very excited to be sharing what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks. We hope that, I always say, even if there's just one takeaway that you can take from a presentation, a webinar, a workshop, and go and apply immediately, it's been useful. So I hope that you are going to have fun along this journey that we've created as a team. And, learning is supposed to be fun and engaging. So we hope that the learning experience that you have today definitely, enables that as well. So, before I start, I'm going to ask that we please log on to our Microsoft 365 account. There's some activities that we're going to share with you just for engagement purposes and so forth. And I will, just explain in terms of what my role is. That's coming up as well. But I'm part of a greater team. This is the LxDT team in CHSE, and they have also contributed to the presentation today. So I'd like to acknowledge them as well. I'd also like to acknowledge the partnership that we've had with the Health Sciences Library as well. I see some of them are on the call today. I'd like to acknowledge Debunking and Boitumelo for assisting us with this, because we wanted to make sure that we were following, copyright and plagiarism policies and so forth as well. So I'm really, really glad that they were able to assist with that. And then I want to thank Shirra for this idea, because it really brings about a conversation that we have about, designing for meaningful learning. And at the end of the day, we want students to be successful. So Shirra, thank you very much for coming up with this topic, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. So I'm sure by now you've logged into Microsoft 365, and I'm sure that you can see my screen. So anyway, we're going to jump right in, and we're going to start with strategies to enhance student learning. That's the theme of the webinar this month, and the debunking myths of instructional design. Now, I'm sure you may have heard in the past where people talk about instructional designers, and usually that concept or role is fulfilled by someone who is in the corporate space and they are developing training material. Those training materials that they create usually is not necessarily on a learning management platform like Canvas or Ulwazi. It's usually created from scratch, using different tools and a variety of tools and so forth. So instructional designers are usually from the corporate space, etc. And then learning experience technologists, and it's a mouthful, are usually in the academic environment, where we obviously design according to the curriculum, learning objectives, and creating engaging experiences for our students. So that's basically the difference between the two. So I hope that, everyone understands that. I'm so excited to introduce the team, and I want to thank Obid for bringing my idea to life. We do see ourselves as superheroes because we are able to impact learning directly through the engagement that we have with lecturers and staff. So this is the LxD Superheroes team, and I'll start by introducing Kutlana, who is one of our leads in the LxDT team, and then Obid. Obid's passion is really around animation as well. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people asking us about animations in Wazi after this, Obid. So that may be coming up. Lucy has been so great in terms of bringing through her her communication background and the creative ideas that she brings about on how to communicate effectively on a learning management system. So that has been great. Tulisi, Spider-Man, his best efforts and talents is definitely around graphics design. It's amazing what he does. If you had the Focus Day booklet as an example, that's something that Ovid and Tulisi also did as well. And then you have me. My superhero is that I believe that I'm a teacher and disciplined by nature. And, that's what I'd love to do. I love to share my knowledge and skills, and I like to learn from others. So that is the team. So here we go in terms of our first activity that I'd like you to join. And Obed is going to post the link to the voting table. I'm going to explain carefully how you actually go through the voting table. So what we've done is we've given you a couple of myths around, learning experience design, and we want you to vote for what you think is a myth. You're only allowed to choose 3 options. So, let's see what your thoughts are about, learning experience design myths. So, we will be seeing activity. I see people starting to join. Mohele, etc. Okay, now people are starting to engage with the content. Okay, see a lot of people voting for the first one, especially. Interesting. Okay, number 2 seems to be the next one. No, Krito, is voting for myth number 3 and number 4, which is interesting. Okay, I'm going to give it a couple of more seconds for everyone to give their input. Okay, so I'm going to start debunking these myths. So the very first one, learning experience design. Okay, someone has changed table, but it doesn't matter. So actually the first learning experience this is the first one. I don't know, someone's actually moved the table, but it's fine. I'm going to talk about the learning experience designers should focus on incorporating all learning styles in their design. So that is definitely a myth. You can't incorporate all learning styles. It's impossible to do that. Whether it be asynchronous or synchronous learning, it is a challenge to do that, to incorporate learning styles like visual or auditory, etc. What the focus should rather be on is ensuring that it's aligned to the learning objectives. That's always, important. And research shows that it actually, when you do introduce all these learning styles, it doesn't necessarily improve learning objectives, which is interesting, right? It's better to focus on the content and the learning objectives, as I said, and making sure that alignment takes place. And then also, breaking it down, because there is complex materials that we're dealing with in health sciences. And then, to grow the knowledge and skills of students at the end of the day is our focus. So that's definitely a myth. The next myth is, okay, let me just go back to this one, which is now actually our first one. Designing online courses is about content delivery. So that's obviously absolutely, a common misconception as well. It is definitely not around content development or delivery. It's about creating meaningful learning experiences where learners have the ability to engage with material for a deeper understanding, long-term retention, and practical application of the knowledge and skills that they've had experience of in the classroom. So this is the learning journey that usually an LxDT team will follow, from a needs analysis right up until, where we see success happening in the classroom, where students are actually they're actually improving their results and so forth. Then if we move on to number 3, learning experience designers are both technologists and subject matter experts. Now, this is definitely also, it could be true, it could not be true. It's a borderline thing. But, in CHSE, we are so, we have such talent in the CHSE, where there are different health sciences disciplines in health in CHSE, like a Shirra or Carol, as an example, or LaZelle, etc. They are all subject matter experts, but they also know about the learning design process that happens as well in the background. So it's very rare, this is globally, it's very rare to have both skills, to have an instructional design background, as well as being a subject matter expert. And our team works with, with different lecturers and so forth. And we depend on your advice and your information, sharing content and information with us, so that you obviously, at the end of the day, again, I'm going to say that often, make students more successful. And then myth number 4, more content and practical examples in an online course equals better learning. Sometimes actually the opposite of that happens. So I am going to show you a couple of examples where the team actually organizes content in a better way. And my lights in my office have gone off. Let me just put that back on so the lighting is better. And so what I was saying, sometimes it has the opposite effect. More content and practical examples definitely creates clutter, but it also creates problems around cognitive overload, because learning, the intention of learning has to be scaffolded. And that's where our team comes into play, where we help you design that learning journey from end to end and scaffold the learning, also drawing out what's important, what's relevant, etc., as part of the curriculum as well. Then our last myth, the self-directed learning in an online course is effective for students as they are familiar with technology. Definitely another myth. Students are not necessarily, they don't have the skills, especially in a first year students. And that's why there's a high dropout rate in first year, because, learning again needs to be scaffolded. They need to see by practice and, behaviors of lecturers, how they should actually be working through the resource materials that has been provided on Ulwazi. So another way of looking at that as well, with these, examples and making course design more effective, is also to streamline the process, but at the end of the day, we have to be very clear about what the learning objectives are, and we've got to be clear step by step what we are requiring from the students as well. So we need to, when we do something, we've got to open up an Ulwazi course, and we've got to take them through step by step. This is where you're going to find the module information. This is where you're going to find the discussion groups. This is the expectation when you go on to a discussion group. This is the ethics and responsibility that you need to adhere to when you're having discussions with your peers and so forth. So all of that narrative is created by the lecturer in order to be successful again at the end of the day. So I definitely got all of you. All of these are myths, and I wanted to take us through. I see the top one is designing online courses is about content delivery. Okay, so let's move on. So this is something that has helped me design as well, with the help of Kutlwano and Malusi as well. They've also provided input. So one of the things that we wanted to debunk today is our process, and how do you consult and engage with the LxDT team. So we've created an infographic. Obed is going to put that into the chat. Please make use of this infographic, save it somewhere safe. And if you want to engage with us, this is the way in which you are going to engage with us. We want to spend just a minute or two explaining our process. Now, what we do know about successful learning is that each discipline always has a framework. Now, learning experience design is no different. There's a There's a whole lot of models that one could follow. When I was doing my master's, as an example, TPAC was very popular, and I used that as my theoretical framework in my research. So, it's always dependent on the discipline that you're following. We use what we call the ADDIE framework. And the ADDIE framework, I'm not going to go through all of this. It's something that you can read and peruse in your own time, but I'm just going to give you a summary. So this is the process that we normally follow. The ADDIE model is an instructional framework that allows us to scaffold the learning design journey. So first of all is the analysis. So this is very important. We always encourage this meeting to be face-to-face, so that we can get to know staff, lecturers, etc. And what we do in that meeting is we do a needs analysis. That needs analysis that we do is all your pain points, what is not working in your course, that type of thing. But before that, the team already starts working on your course. What we do is, in preparation for the meeting, we actually look at your current Ulwazi course, and we take that information and start strategizing as a team and saying, maybe, we should have a SCORM, or maybe we should have some interactive engagement like a Padlet or something, or discussion group, etc. So that's where we start coming up with the different updates that we could possibly make to your Ulwazi course. Then the step number 2 is the design phase. Now, the design phase is very quick. What we do is, based on the feedback from our first engagement or meeting, we then take that and create a prototype. So, this is what it looks like if you have an interactive quiz, etc., with marks related to it, etc., etc. So that's where we create the prototype. Then step number 3 is a huge phase, is the development. This is actually, once we've got feedback, we now design the entire update of the Ulwazi course. And we never make changes to the learning objectives because that stays the same, right? But we may convert or transition assessments to make them more engaging and so forth. During this phase, we actually design, everything that needs to be updated in Ulwazi. But it's also a great opportunity for lecturers, to come and follow us at CHSE and do the PG DIP as an example, or the Introduction to Health Sciences Education, any of those courses, which helps you to deliver this new updated learning experience as well, because you are going to feel uncomfortable. Learning is uncomfortable, so during that process, if you think that, actually I need to update and innovate what I'm doing in my lectures, maybe I should join, the Introduction to HSC as an example. But also during this time, the team also delivers, very, very basic training on how to use Ulwazi. As an example, if you need to know how to upload, presentation, how to create transcripts, those kind of things, we will, from a technical point of view, we'll be able to provide that training. But it's very basic. We normally record those sessions so that you can always use it as a reference point. And then step number 4 is implementation. We call it the go live phase. So this is where we actually go live with the design and the updates that we've made to the Ulwazi course. And then we get the feedback from lecturers or staff. This link is not actually working. The menu and navigation is not directing to the correct learning material or source, etc. So that's where what we call our testing phase. So even though it's the implementation, it's only the implementation to lecturers. So students don't see that at all. Then we make the necessary updates, and then we go live, with the course for student access. We always say that, best practice is to actually have a go live date that is, necessarily 2 weeks. I know it's a long time, but a week is also fine, so that allows it to have sufficient time to actually test and make sure that everything is working. And then lastly, we ask for your evaluation input. Feedback is important. Constructive feedback is always important. And I'm going to show you how quick that is in our design process as well. So as part of this, we do have the links. The first thing is our project design brief, which you would need to complete. Very quick. It's very, basic information, what type of support you need, department names, contact details, and so forth. Then we also ask for feedback, and people usually say, oh, it's going to take you 3 minutes to, do the evaluation. I'm telling you, it's going to really take you 3 minutes, because there's 5 questions. You can tick a box and you're done and you submit. So that feedback is really, really key for us, to deliver on making sure that we as a team are effective and successful as well. So I'm going to ask for your engagement again. I've got a Wordle puzzle that I'd love us to go through. Obed, if you could please put that into the chat. So let me explain what's going to happen. I'm actually going to show you how to do this step by step, because it can be quite difficult to understand at the beginning. But obviously, if you make use in your lectures, you could use this as an example. It will become easier. So the hint is, guess the correct word. It's the first action to create curriculum, assessments, learning activities, in-person or online courses. So that's your hint. The second one is, it's made up of 2 words. You must guess which word it actually is in the word puzzle, right? So those are the 2 hints. Then just for your explanation, solving the Wordle, if you see any green letters, it means that your letters are in the correct positions. There's also misplaced letters, so they, should be in a different order. And lastly, in gray, it will then show the letters that are excluded, so you're actually not on the right track. Now, with Wordle, one of the, the things that I would say about this Wordle is that it doesn't necessarily, you shouldn't be given so many options to actually play. But, it is what it is. If I had designed it, I would have just given you 1 or 2 attempts, but it gives you 5 attempts. So I'm going to go on to the Wordle with you. I'm going to type in my name and I'm going to start the game. So this is the link that Obed put into the chat, right? On your right-hand side, you're going to see a leaderboard, and I'm going to start. It's also timing me. I know people are very competitive as well. And so I'm not a competitive person at all. But yeah, so let's see, once we start engaging with the app, let's see if you're getting those correct or not. So this is your 5 attempts where you're going to actually capture the information. I'd like your feedback, because I'm not seeing anyone on the leaderboard yet. Are you able to access the link and open up the Wordle?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amanda.
Can you please just repeat the question?
I'll do that with pleasure. The question is, guess the correct word. The first action that one would take when you're creating curriculum, or you're designing an assessment, a learning activity, or an online or in-person course. So what is that first action that you normally have to do? It's very easy. I promise you, it's very easy. When I tell you the answer, you're going to kick yourself. I still don't see any updates coming through. Let me just refresh my screen. There we go. Lucy, well done. Of course, Malusi, you know the answer because you were there when we were going through our presentation. Shirra, I'm so Shirra. Obviously, this is, to be expected that Shirra would be on the leaderboard. It took her 2 minutes and 33 seconds to come up with the right answer, but I'm definitely not surprised by that at all. And let's just see if there's anyone else. Come on, guys. Don't be shy. Get involved. I think people are struggling, right, in terms of what the correct answer. Again, I'm going to repeat the question. So when you're designing curriculum or a course, or when you're designing assessments, you usually start with this point. This is the first thing that you normally do. It's made up of 2 words. You've actually got to come up with the correct word. And that's the reason why I don't, prefer the fact that there's 5 attempts, because it takes you longer to figure out what's correct or incorrect. That's the only thing that I would change. But just in the interest of time, there's so much to share with you today. So well done, Shirra, for getting it right. The correct word, everyone, is objective. Learning objectives. So that's how we normally start, right? When we are creating curriculum and so forth. So well done, Shirra, on that. Okay, so we wanted to take you through some library resources that we've been exposed to. And these are such great resources. The university spends a lot of money on the subscriptions, and we should be using it. We should be directing our students to go and make use of these resources as well. And this one was designed by Lucy. So let's have a look. And I'll be talking through the demo. There is no audio. So the resource that Lucy has used is Elsevier, which you're all familiar with, and Clinical Key. And basically what Lucy does here is she just takes us through step by step, and I'm just going to enlarge that, step by step as to how she's actually used Clinical Key. She's found an image. It's about infectious diseases as an example. Okay, that's the resource that she's showing us. And now, obviously, when you're doing this or you're asking the design team, to create this experience for you, you wouldn't necessarily be going to Clinical Key or whatever. You may to go and find the correct images or content or whatever, and you'll share it with us. However, we will then create the interactive experience on Ulwazi. So one of the ways in which Lucy's now created this, we call it a hotspot, right? Or a pinpoint. So this type of question is very popular. Images, especially in health sciences, where you ask a student to identify a certain part of the heart or whatever it may be, etc. So this is what the demo is actually taking you through. And this is the process that we would follow on Ulwazi to actually create the question. I wanted to just get to, so you can see now at the moment, Lucy has created and established points for this as well, which you can do. Okay, now this is the student view that we're currently going to have a look at. So let's see what the student is going to see once you've designed this learning activity. And you can see Lucy was having some Wi-Fi issues. But anyway, the question, we went through the question very quickly. I just want to go back. Okay, so at that point, let me just pause it. Draw a hotspot on a diagram between A or B of structures surrounded by a halo and a ring of marginated chromatin at the nuclear membrane. Okay, so that is the question. Okay, so this is what the student is doing now, engaging with the interactive hotspot and submitting their answer. Right, and now they're going to submit. Let's see if they're correct. 5 out of 5 points. Well done. The student is on the right track. And obviously you can get that feedback on Ulwazi as well. And that's just the resource where Lucy got the information from. So let me just escape from there. So that was just an example or a demo of a type of question that you could be including, when you're using images and so forth as well. Then this is a demo using, I love this resource, Divind. Thank you so much for showing it to our team. It's called Anatomy TV. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. And it's really, it creates a really interactive experience. Now, however, we've got to follow copyright and publication copyright as well. So for this one, it's something that you would necessarily put into your lecture notes or into your presentation notes, etc. And you will link directly to anatomy.tv. So it's not something that we are going to embed into Ulwazi because of the copyright restriction. But basically, this is how Anatomy TV works. It's called Primal Pictures. I'm going to click on the demo, right? I'm not going to focus on I'm just looking at the time. There's quite a bit to get through, but that's where you'll find it. These are all under the LibGuides as a library resource. and I've chosen to do the whole body. And this is maybe something as a flipped classroom where you ask your students to go and have a look at this image, in 3D, have a look at the arteries, the veins, the bone structures, those kinds of things. So you could ask them to do this. And then when they come to class, you have a quick knowledge check to see whether or not that they've engaged with the material as well, which we could also put on Ulwazi as well for you. Again, so this is just an example as to how you would make use of Anatomy TV. Again, I really, really love this resource. Then moving on, I know health sciences is definitely filled with a lot of case studies. Yes, you can use AI to generate case studies, but is it necessarily correct and so forth? You probably have to evaluate it and edit it before you interact with it. So the workaround that we've discovered is using a resource again from the library, McGraw-Hill. And we're going to show you how we would use this creating a multiple choice question. What's good about this, and I want to point this out immediately, is that you can decide on the type of feedback that the student will receive. Will it be text? Will it be an image, etc.? So he has done this as an example, and I'm just going to go through this demo very quickly. So what he's done is he's gone onto the LibGuides McGraw-Hill as an example. He's found a case study, and then it's also given him the diagnosis, and it's about strokes, if you can't see the demo very clearly. And so he's taking that information now, and he's going to convert it into a quiz or a quiz question on Ulwazi. So he's taken the content from there. So we know that it's correct because it comes from a reliable source, such as McGraw-Hill. And he goes through the process of actually creating the multiple choice. I want to try and just make sure that So what he's showing you right now, and I want to pause here. So this is the type of feedback. This is an MRI that's been provided on McGraw-Hill as well. And so it actually shows you the correct answer. If you selected the incorrect answer, it actually gives you feedback as to what the correct answer is and why. And it brings up this MRI scan as well. So those are the types of things that you could include. And I think it's such a great feedback that you could use in your lectures as well, right? The best of both worlds. I really want to showcase how great the CHSE team are. And, the blended teaching approach, people have spoken about this for many, many years, and the types of learning. But, really at the end of the day, it's about making students successful and creating engaging content for them with a blend of updated traditional methods that we know, and blending that with some technology resources, interactive resources, and so forth. Right now, so this was done by Shirra, and I want to show you an example of how you create engagement with your students. So she's done it in two different ways, which I like. So one of the ways in which she's presented this, and it comes from a course that the CHSE offers, Essentials of Assessment in Health Sciences. She's given them a QR code, which they can then scan, and she's given them the instruction. Each group is given 3 concepts to define. Add these to the Padlet below for your reference. Now, what I like about that, absolutely, the assessment, the learning activity is definitely being guided. It's been scaffolded. The instruction is clear. Students are divided into groups, and they know what they need to do, and it's very, very specific. Then that's one way of doing it, and then putting it onto Ulwazi. But the next one is even better. You can embed your Padlet into Ulwazi as well, which again creates discussion groups, etc. And I know that people don't really like discussion groups, but if you start with that narrative in your first lecture in block 1, and students know this is coming up, and you start scaffolding and making them used to that type of behavior, and we have to teach the skill of collaboration, whether we want to or not. So how do you do that ethically and obviously responsibly as well? So this is one where Shirra's actually embedded it, and I want to show you what it looks like on Ulwazi, right? So it comes up with the Padlet, and you can go and add your content, etc., etc. And you can always, students can always use this as a reference point when they start preparing for exams and so forth. Right? Okay, we're going to do another activity. This time it's a word cloud. And the instruction this time, but if you could please put the link into the chat. The instruction this time is to summarize in one word what you learned thus far about designing online courses. Anything that you've taken away that would be useful today, you can access the link, like I said, in the Teams chat. And obviously, if you want to add more than one input, you are welcome to do so. So I'm going to go to the word cloud and let's see, put it on present mode. Okay, first word coming up is creative, and that's coming out very boldly, learning objectives. I mean, I think we can count the number of times we can use AI, the number of times I've used that word during this webinar. Okay, ask. Absolutely. We don't know everything. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Collaboration, interactive, all great ways in which you can create engaging content. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. Interactive seems to be coming out quite important as part of this process. Okay, interesting. Thanks for engaging with us. I'm going to move on. So this is our animation guy, Obed, who's created this resource. Now he's used something, it's a generative AI tool. It's called freepic.com, if you want to have a look at it. All he did was take a static image and he's now animated that image. So it is the heart, and let's see what it has done in terms of, okay, so it's for physiology, okay, showing that the heart is pumping, right? And he's providing all the labels and parts of the heart. So, imagine doing this with your students where you're actually creating such a great and interactive experience for them. And this is definitely going to optimize the use of Ulwazi as well, because that's where we want to get to a point where we know the students are referencing and going through that, the Ulwazi course as a resource. Now, this is where I spoke about this earlier. Decluttering information is very important. How you organize your Ulwazi course is very important. It has to be kept simple so that it's easy for students to engage with the material, etc. Now, this is one thing that Ulwazi has done for a glossary for microbiology. We're currently updating their coursework for block 4. And what we've done here to make it easier, most of us normally just put this onto a PDF and we create this glossary with a whole lot of information, which is, again, cognitive overload, right? So what we've done is we've created this glossary using HTML. So, Ulwazi is also a specialist. So if I go to the letter S as an example, and I'm looking for a specific word, I click on it and it comes up with the definition or description or whatever you want to do or use the glossary for. Now, Dr. Sunila that we're working with and Professor Hamid in microbiology, one of the things they've actually done is they wanted to summarize their glossary. So they didn't want this long-winded, descriptions or definitions. They wanted it to be easier for students to remember each of the terminology that they've been using. So that's one way to declutter information that you present on Ulwazi. Then, this is one of the most popular questions that we get when people ask us to create a SCORM or an interactive quiz on Ulwazi. And again, we've used content from Elsevier Clinical Key. Kutlwano has created this demo. And so she's created this information. I'm going to take it to the end very quickly. She's just, okay, that's the topic. She's found the different information that she wants to include in the drag and drop. And I'm going to show you, this is what the drag and drop looks like. So what the student gets to do on Ulwazi, they've actually got to place all the correct responses under the correct term in order to get it right. And you can give them a certain amount of attempts, 3 attempts, etc. And then at the end of the day, feedback again, it's correct, and you can change that once again, the reference coming up from where we obtained the information. Right, so another star in our CHSE team, Carol, who's great at designing courseware. So one of the things that she's done is she's created transcripts of her videos in Ulwazi as well. Now, why would you want to do that? Probably is the question. And I want to show you the example. So this is on wound healing. And so right at the bottom, what Carol has done, here's the video. She's created, most lecturers do this. We've seen it time and time again, where they create a PDF of the slides. And that's very good for students to use, especially as they're preparing for exams, etc., etc. But now, why would you want to create a transcript? Because of accessibility. Not all our students have Wi-Fi at home or data, etc., to watch the video, etc. So what they could do with this transcript, they could print it out, and then they could go through the explanation that Carol has actually given about this specific wound healing as well. So that's why you create transcripts, to improve accessibility on Ulwazi as well. So there's so many ways that you could do this, but that's just one way and reason why you would create a transcript of a video. Then I want to leave you off with what's coming and the excitement that's happening around Canvas. This is coming to Canvas. Some of these things are already there and how we're going to make use of it. Our design team is also going to help you hold your hand through it. Coming up next, right? Powerful tools to track student performance analytics in Ulwazi. So this is something that Shirra and I spoke about. We'd love to be able to create workshops around this. How can you use this information to really find, those at-risk students very early on, at the beginning of block 1, rather than waiting for April or whenever. So that's one of the ways in which our team is we're definitely going to implement this, and we're going to include it as part of our PG DIP or introduction to HSE, or run a separate workshop for it. And then lastly, what's exciting, everyone's talking about chatbots. I know physiology is using Fizzlebot, but again, it comes with, a subscription expense, etc. Why not use the chatbot that's coming up in Ulwazi, and it's coming up in 2026. We don't know if it's going to be an extra charge or not, but we do know that this is something that we'll be able to use in Canvas or Ulwazi in 2026. So I look forward to, helping you use these chatbots and creating, innovating and using AI ethically and responsibly as well. So that's one of the ways in which I want to end off with that narrative as well. That's something that is a key focus. I'm new to Wits, and I will be focusing on helping staff navigate AI and how you can use that responsibly and ethically, and the students as well. So that is it. That's the end of our webinar. I don't know if there's any questions. These are our references. And so basically that is what the team has come up with. I hope you've learned one thing that you can take away immediately and go apply it tomorrow or today. Are there any questions, team, in the chat? Or if you want to come off mute, you're welcome to ask a question. It seems like everyone is fine and happy. So just want to check the chat as well. Oh, yes, Shirra.
So, RONELLE, I'm just going to jump in and say, first of all, thank you so much. That was really interesting.
And it's very nice for you to unpack process and
Yeah.
for people to hear what the team actually does. So we really appreciate you giving your time today. Maybe it might be interesting because you do still have a few minutes left. I see we still do have people listening in. If everybody could drop into the chat one thing that they learned today that they actually didn't know before. Because all of us have, some passing ideas about how we could improve student engagement. And there might have been things that you introduced today that were new. So it would be interesting for us to see how many things were new for how many people. And it's not a big ask, just drop it in the chat for us.
It would be great, Shirra. Again, we love feedback. And hopefully, like I said, if you just had one takeaway today, that would be great. I'm going to go off camera and off mute. And enjoy the rest of your day. And it has been really fun. And thank you for the engagement and participating in this webinar today. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so I'm interested. I do see the people are now leaving without dropping things in the chat. So I'm going to encourage everybody to think about it. And please join us next week when we start on a new theme in September, looking at all of the policies and procedures that are in place in our faculty and across the university for teaching and learning that you might not have encountered before. We look forward to seeing you next week. And thanks so much, RONELLE and the LxD team, for giving us some things to think about this week. Enjoy the afternoon, everybody.